Hi, Alteryx users on YouTube. This video is going to show you how to use the Continuum XML Slammer, and that will change XML data into row-based data. It's a plugin, it's a DLL, it's available on GitHub. I'll put a link in the description below. You can use it for free. For any purpose, commercial or otherwise, but please give credit just to say that it came from Continuum Jersey. Continuum Jersey is a consultancy. We help people open up the power of Alteryx to streamline daily tasks, solve problems, and prevent costly business errors. Visit us at www.continuum.je. And please note that Continuum Jersey is nothing to do with any other companies called Continuum. It's quite a common name in certain business areas. So it's Continuum Jersey. And you should see on the screen that there is a www address at the top. So anyway, XML data is hierarchical, and Alteryx likes row-based data. Alteryx has an XML tool, and it's it's fantastic, right? But it could be improved. Alteryx also has a JSON tool, which is brilliant. It's in the developer section. So I wanted an XML tool that worked like the JSON tool. So I built a Alteryx plugin that does just that. Now what I've got to do is I'm going to show you how to use it in a very sort of quick way, with a very simple flow that you can see on the screen. So first, XML is just a string, right? It's just a bunch of characters, but it's in a very specific format. It's really for a computer to read, but humans can read it in a nice way as well. The strict formatting rules are there to preserve the hierarchy. XML doesn't really care about white space and carriage returns. That's for us humans. XML is only concerned with the tags and the relative ordering of the tags. So this tool is going to try and decode that hierarchy into rows. All the tool needs to know is where to get the XML data. So this is the tool. It's got an icon. It's like a grey developer icon. It's got a very simple config. All it wants to know is where to get its data from. And in this example, it's going to be field 1. And it needs some information about what to put out. So you can put out data with delimiters. Now, a delimiter is used to separate the hierarchy, and it will become clear how we use that as I do this demonstration. But you can also see you can index the groups. Now, in XML, you can have something called a repeating group. That's kind of like the way XML handles arrays, repeating bunches of information. Sometimes you want to number those arrays and say this is item 1, item 2, item 3, etc. Sometimes you don't want to do that, and that checkbox at the bottom gives you the option to control that. So let's have a look at an XML file. I've got a very simple one set up here, and it's the kind of thing you expect to get. It's got a repeating group in it for a couple of gentlemen that you may or may not be familiar with, as if they were clients of a company. So we want to pull that in and start processing that data and maybe build a client record file from that. So as you can see, it's got hierarchical information with clients at the top, first name, surname, first name, surname. So we've got Boris Johnson's details there, and we've got Mr. Trump's details there. And we are going to first pull them in and create an XML string. Now, I'll show you how to do that afterwards, but that file gets taken in and processed by the Slammer into this kind of information you can see below. Let me just open this up so you can see the whole file. So, and let's push this up and get this next to it so you can see the before and after. There we go. Doesn't make any sense, but there we go. Right, so we've got whatever is in the XML file is decoded into its location and the data at that location. So for instance, the first name of Boris Johnson is held in that element of the XML. That is, in the XML terms, is in client's first name. So and that corresponds with this data over here. Client's first name, item 1, Boris. The second item of the repeating group is Mr. Trump, and you just move that over slightly. As you can see, the first name is held here under client's second item of the repeating group, first name. So I've got indexing turned on, so I get a 2 added to this element, client's first name to Donald. Now I'll just show you what happens if you turn the indexing off and how it compares. Over here, turn off indexing groups, rerun the image, here we go. And what we see is that we don't get that number on the address field. So if you wanted it, you wouldn't have to have that index number there. I find it very useful because it allows us to group data up afterwards and process it in Alteryx in a nice way. But that's pretty much it. You can just bounce your XML data in one step to a row-based file. Once you've got it as a row-based file, you can then process it in Alteryx as you see fit. So I'll put the slammer back to having index groups, rerun this. And then, for instance, if I took my data with its index groups and I wanted to extract the address, I could pull out just the path items which have address in them, and I would get line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4 from the first group, and line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4 from the second group. I could then process them in Alteryx and say, okay, split those up based on the delimiter, and I could then process them into row-based addresses. Now the delimiters I haven't really explained, but that's a character you can choose to separate the hierarchies. So if I change the path delimiter, that black square will change and we'll get different output there, and you can see you get more like a directory style output, but I've still got the small dot in there. If I change that small dot there to a dot, for example, that will then change the honorific attribute to come out with dot. So let's look at that. There we go. So in XML, you can have data either as tagged data, like the surname here in between the 2 tags of surname, or you can have it as attribute data, such as the honorific. Now, the wisdom of that in the terms of the designers of XML is questionable, because really, to us humans, that could be either an attribute in this tag, or it could be a child tag of first name, and it would still be pretty much the same to us. This application will deal with that, with both attributes and tag data, and spin it all out to row-based data for you to process later on quite happily. So in order for that to work, I would just need to change the delimiter that I've chosen to split on, and then I get my data out there just as before. So you can see you would be able to automate the processing of inbound XML files in any way you wanted to using Alteryx. that we know and love. So the thing that the file needs, the application needs to process, is data in one particular field. So when you take in an XML file, we just change this to something else, change it back to force it to reload it. When you pull in an XML file from Alteryx, by default, it will try and process the file. And as you can see, it's had a stab, and it's done reasonably well. And you might be lucky, and you might find your inbound XMLs are default processed happily. This one hasn't processed in a way that I would find useful. It's actually brought out the address, ironically, which is what I showed it processing earlier on. But if I didn't want the address and I wanted some information about the first name and second name, for example, that's lost using the default processing. So in order to get the system to pull in the XML data into one field, I've got to do a bit of Alteryx fiddling. So to do that, I configure the input in a certain way. So I'm pointing an XML file and it's defaulted to XML. I'm going to say no, I want that as a CSV. Usually it's off the top of the screen. There we go. Pull that in as a CSV. Now it's not a CSV, but that's okay. I'm going to configure it so that it pulls it in as a single string. So I'm going to take option 5. I'm going to set the limiter to /0. That's sorry, my mistake. /0. /0 is the indicator for the end of a file. So that's telling Alteryx to read in everything and stop when you get to what's called the null character, which is that /0, which indicates the file is empty. The first row actually contains what's called the declaration in XML, and I actually want that because I might want to process that. So I'm going to pull that in. The field length I'm going to make huge. Usually about 2 billion is enough to carry up to 2 gigs of data, and that just stops your file being truncated early on before you get to the end. I'm going to allow delimiters in quotes, and then at the bottom I'm going to do something which is quite technical, which is select the code page. Now I'm going to choose Unicode UTF-8 because my declaration is saying that this XML file is encoded in UTF-8. Now that's it's a bit technical. Just make sure you match it up when you look at your XML. If your XML doesn't have a declaration at the top that says it's UTF-8 or UTF-16, don't worry, just choose UTF-8. That's usually how XML files are encoded. When I do that, I get row-based data, but it's got a bit of trash in it, and it's not exactly what I want. So what I'm going to do is clean off the leading and trailing spaces to start off with, and that will get rid of anything which is just useless to me. And then I do a concatenation where I pull all the rows into one big string. So before that, we have the XML file line by line as you would read it in an editor. Afterwards, you have all the data concatenated up into one cell. Once it's in that format and you've got everything in the XML all into one cell, the Slammer is ready to digest it and process it as one big string. And that's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys will find it helpful, and it is free. It's on GitHub. It's a DLL you can download and install. I'll put some instructions up there. It's free to use. I hope it's useful and saves you headaches. If you do use it, please reference Continuum and maybe come see our website and see if there's anything we can help you with. We have vast experience in the financial area, and we hopefully look forward to working with you. So thanks for your time and thanks for watching.